On this episode of Purposely Curious, we sit down and discuss whether or not the Simpsons writers are time travelers. Join us as we discuss a list of possible predictions made on The Simpsons throughout the years. Get nice and cozy as this episode starts now. Hello, Leonie. How are you?
Greetings, Mary. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing really good. It's been almost 2 weeks since we sat down to record. Can you believe it?
2 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
What? I feel like I was sleeping or I just woke up and you're telling me that I've been asleep for 2 weeks?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
So, how have you been?
Good. Been good. Just, keeping busy with projects and trying to stay sane in this crazy world, but doing all right.
Yeah.
How about yourself? What's new with you?
Same. Just like you, working. And then I had told Leonie, I decided to kind of take a week off for Memorial Day weekend. And then this past week, as you guys all know out there, there's a lot going on in the US and I could not focus. So I moved it back a week. I just couldn't focus on anything but that. And it also felt like it was affecting our work life because we are like traveling nurses. But it's getting a little bit more calmer, so that's good. So I thought it would be good to get back on the podcast and have that as a distraction.
Yeah.
For me and for anyone out there that enjoys listening. So.
Nice.
Yes. So this week I wanted to talk about, as you guys all know, 2020 has been a really crazy year, hasn't it, Leonie?
Yeah, it's been one for the record books for sure. One that people might want to delete or start over or ignore. It'd be funny if our personal diaries or future birthdays and stuff. People look at the our photo albums and be like, "So what happened in 2020?" And you're like, "Nothing." We don't acknowledge that year. Just keep going. Next topic.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's been from literally the beginning of the year. Like it seems that from January on, it's just been one crazy story. I mean, they're not even stories. It's like real life,
of course,
stuff that's just creepy and scary and yeah. I'm speechless. And guys, we're only halfway through, so 6 more months till it's over.
Yeah, right.
Hopefully just the year and not,
Well, I don't know. There's a big asteroid heading this way, so
I know, I've heard that.
That'd be kind of cool if the asteroid took us out.
Oh Lord. Well, at least that would be quick, right?
Well, yeah, but then again, I just don't want to miss a thing.
I mean, if the asteroid is big enough, it would, I think.
I don't want to close my eyes. I don't want to miss things. I can't sing, but I was thinking of that song from Armageddon, the
oh man,
Aerosmith song.
I was too young to understand. Well, no, I understood it, but I was all about that song. All about it, and I didn't know. Anyways, I'm not gonna open that box.
Right.
Anyways, so for this episode, I wanted to do something more fun, and that's something that through the years, as more things have been coming to light, is the predictions that the Simpsons are kind of, people think that the writers of the Simpsons are time travelers, or how did they predict this? How did they know? Is it a coincidence? And so I wanted to discuss some of the cases, which I think some can be coincidences, but some of them are awfully too accurate.
I know, right?
Yes. Have you actually heard of any yourself? You want to start? Or I have a list of things, but if there's one that you wanted to talk about.
I know that I've heard of some, they'll coincide with your list, so I just want to go by your list. But yeah, it's interesting because isn't The Simpsons, I mean, I could be wrong, but The Simpsons is the longest running TV show, right?
Yeah, I think
over 30 some years
actually, now? Yes, I was going to say, I think I read it somewhere. and it was 30 something.
Yeah, and it's really fascinating because that started in the '80s, I think the mid or late '80s, right? And it's animated, half-hour TV sitcom comedy, show, and it's about a family, and they pretty much don't age. Like the kids are
No.
still the same age, and Marge and Homer are still the same age, Bart's the same age, and Maggie's the same age, and Lisa, so it's always been fascinating because they just keep writing interesting content for that show over and over. And then they also have the Halloween special, the Treehouse of Terror, and the sometimes holiday specials and stuff. But always a fascinating, fun show to watch.
Yeah. I used to enjoy watching it when I was younger and then just like kind of grew out of it. Um, but definitely I have been keeping track in the last maybe 5 years as it's getting more press, I guess,
Right,
online,
right,
or coverage online of their predictions.
right.
So I thought we would just cover a few. I'm sure that a lot of listeners probably have heard others, or maybe are like big Simpsons, fans. But I wanted to start with the three-eyed fish. Do you remember that fish?
Yeah, I remember that. I remember seeing that like early on too. I mean, it was,
Yes, season 2, episode 4.
yeah. Wasn't that like because of a radioactive
Mm-hmm.
nuclear plant or something?
So, yes. So the three-eyed fish was found by Bart, and I guess they named it Blinky in the river that's by the power plant, and so it makes local news everywhere. And so it turns out that I guess they link it back to Burns' power plant,
Mm.
and so some people believe that it was a prediction because 10 years or more than 10 years later, they did find a three-eyed fish in the reservoir in Argentina, which had, I guess, water from a nuclear plant that was nearby.
Oh wow,
And so some people swear that it was a prediction from The Simpsons.
wow.
And I looked at pictures. Of course, it's not a yellow fish, but the fish does have, 3 eyes. So I don't know if that's something that people out there believe, but that was one of the ones that people talk about being a prediction. Had
That
you heard of that one?
I did, and it's funny you mentioned that because what was in the news recently about a couple of weeks ago was a radioactive fish that some fishermen were trying to catch because they keep saying that the local people have said they found this fish. Now, mind you, this is in a restricted area in Chernobyl. Remember the big Chernobyl
Mm,
nuclear plant? I mean,
yes.
that place is such a hot zone. It's so radioactive, and it's going to be radioactive for the next 80,000 years, I think. But the
Which is
surrounding,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah, because that thing put out some heavy duty isotopes when that thing blew up. The surrounding, everywhere, surrounding city, everywhere. But there's a lake nearby, and people, you're not supposed to go there. First of all, okay, but people go there because obviously the government will take your money, and all you have to do is say, "Oh, I'm a field scientist," and they're like, "Great, sign here. Have a nice day." Now, on the way out, if you test positive for all these neutrons being ejected because you stepped on something radioactive, guess what? They won't let you out, or they won't let you.
Really?
Yeah, they're super strict about that. So you have to be very careful where you go, where you step and all that. Anyways, long story. There's a guy, and there's a story about this online somewhere. If you Google it, he heard a rumor about this radioactive fish, and I think it was a catfish actually in some lake. And people said, "No, you're crazy. Nothing could live and survive, whatever." Anyways, he went fishing, and he spent the allotted time, and by that I mean you can only be there because it's so radioactive. You can only be in the area for so long, and
Mm-hmm.
that's it. And by that's it, I mean you cannot return because your body is getting so much radiation that you will probably get sick and die. So in other words, the guy spent his 4 hours there, or whatever it was, and he was trying to fish and trying to fish and trying to catch it, and then eventually at the very end he caught it, and it was this big ass catfish, like I think it might have been like 4 feet long or something, and sure enough it was in the radioactive waters, so obviously he couldn't take it home or nothing. He got to throw it back in, but it was like his mission in life. And then he's showing his Geiger counter, and he's like, yep, he's like, I reached my limit, so he can no longer return, because if he does he'll get sick from radiation, but yeah, pretty crazy that that the Simpsons character, I mean the fish thing, made me think of that story that just happened a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. The other thing too is, you know how you're there, I think, was it a year ago? One of my friends went to Chernobyl, well, the outskirts of it.
Are you serious?
With that, yeah, they do chores now. So when you were talking, I was like, oh, I was going to wait till you were done. And I was like, they're letting people into a certain radius, not where the actual plant was, but in the city. And
That's
there's
crazy.
chores now. Yeah.
I would never go.
She's ballsy.
Yeah, I would never. There's no way I'm going. Like, seriously, because I mean, yeah, you can go through the city and stuff, but it's. I mean, there's just like you can go on YouTube and watch these videos, and it's pretty crazy because these videos are just like a year old or even 6 months old. Somebody will show you how the radiation levels are low, and then 5 feet to the left or right or to the up or down, they're extremely high.
That's
So
crazy.
it's so unstable because they can't really clean that area up. I think the best they did was they had to bury an entire forest. So like the entire forest that was exposed because of the radiation from the explosion and stuff. I think they buried it, but even then, it's like the radiation's not. It's still there. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah. I had seen a documentary too on the bombings in Japan, and they had like certain things growing certain ways,
Right.
like plants and everything. So it definitely is real. So I don't know. Chernobyl was before that episode, so maybe it was inspired by Chernobyl,
Yeah, probably.
and it's not actually predicting anything.
Yeah, right.
So the next thing I wanted to talk about was the censorship of Michelangelo's David statue.
Oh, wow.
So on season 2, episode 9, they also had an episode where it showed that the residents of Springfield were protesting against Michelangelo's statue of David because it was being exhibited in one of their museums, and they called it obscene because of the nudity. And so they covered it up with jeans, but the whole episode was how they were protesting. And then in July 2016, there was a Russian campaign that voted that they wanted to cover the statue as well when it was going to be in St. Petersburg or something like that. So people think that that was a prediction as well.
Wow.
Had you heard of that?
Yeah, I have.
I hadn't. The other one I wanted to talk about was the letter from the Beatles, also season 2, episode 18. So apparently in this episode, the Simpsons had seen the Beatles' Ringo Starr answering fan mail that had been written like decades ago. And so in September 2013, apparently 2 fans from Essex received a reply from Paul McCartney that was from a letter they sent 50 years ago.
Wow.
So they were, and again, so this was in 2013, and then in 1991. So some people are like, The Simpsons predicted that. So could also be that Paul McCartney saw the episode and said, well, oh, why not? I don't have shit to do. Let me look at some old fan mail.
Right.
That's just me, but
That's funny.
I had not heard of that either.
Have you heard about the Higgs boson prediction?
No.
So in science, physicists and the mathematicians and astrophysicists and stuff have been looking for what they've been calling the God particle.
I did.
You did.
Yes.
So
Go ahead, tell it.
So back in, I don't know, it started construction in the 90s, I guess it was, or 80s, 90s. the city of Geneva, Switzerland, is surrounded by a 52-mile experimental collider, atom smasher. It's called the CERN in Sweden. And what it does is think of it as like a donut, right? The circular tunnel, and it has tracks. And what they do is they send atom particles, right? In this case, they send protons of lead atoms, for example, in one direction, right? And they accelerate it using these huge magnets, and they use, I believe, it's liquid oxygen or helium. They use it to cool it down to the coldest state possible. I mean, we're talking like the temperature of the universe, like so cold, like almost close to absolute zero, And they accelerate these protons of lead atoms at the speed of light. Now imagine it one particle going in a circle, right? Now they insert on a different track the same one going in the opposite direction. So now they're going in different directions, but they're going in the same circle, right? And then when they cross the tracks, they smash into each other, and the protons blow up into pieces, and they have these huge detectors, and what they are looking for is to detect if they can find the glue that holds the universe together. So for the last like 40 years, somebody predicted that the Higgs, I think his name was Peter Higgs, the scientist named Higgs predicted that there was a particle out there that holds the universe together, that holds the electrons together, holds the neutrons and protons and matter and all that. Because without that, we can't have stuff. We can't build stuff. We can't have tables and chairs and microphones, So that was recently proven using that Large Hadron Collider in CERN, Switzerland, just a few years ago, not that long ago. But the funny thing is, you can go back to The Simpsons, and that was predicted, I believe, on a chalkboard. Homer predicted that. Homer Simpson predicted that on a chalkboard in a background of one of the episodes. I don't remember which episode it was.
Yeah, so basically he wrote down the actual formula.
Yes.
Exactly how the scientists figured it out. It's season 8, episode 1.
Damn,
it's
that's
the
crazy.
Higgs-boson equation.
That's crazy.
In 1998. And in 2013, so it was published in 1998 on the episode, and then it wasn't, I guess, discovered proof of it until 2013.
2013, yeah. Isn't that crazy? It's like, of all the things you can make up, right? Like for example,
Yeah.
you can watch the movie Back to the Future, at 1, 2, and 3, and you could say like, oh, Pepsi goes out of business and Coca-Cola rules the world, whatever, right? You can make up some silly, thing, right? And maybe comes true, maybe not, but you're like, oh wow. But to pull out something that's so obscure in science that only scientists would know, right? Like what is a Simpsons writer doing reading about nuclear physics particles,
Yeah, and like I said, could be a time traveler.
Yeah, I'm convinced.
I mean, 2020's been kind of crazy. I think at this point, people, if we found out time traveling was real, people would not, they wouldn't be like, nah. I think people would be like, yeah, what else is new? Like, 2020's been a shit.
What's crazier to you, though? Time travel being real or aliens existing among us?
Neither one is crazy. I've been a believer since I was a kid. So
Nice.
Neither one is crazy.
Nice.
Siegfried and Roy, tiger attack.
Oh, no.
So for those of you guys who are not from the US, they were a big, I guess you can say they were entertainers in Las Vegas. They had like their own show, kind of like Celine Dion has, at Caesar's Palace. So Americans, they were a big staple of America. They were very flamboyant, they were famous, right? And so in season 5, episode 10, they basically are people who, they're showmen is what, I don't want to leave that out.
Right.
Who I guess had tigers in their show. And so they were trained tigers, right? These are huge tigers. And so that's how they made their money. And so it was season 5, episode 10. where in the episode they had two I don't know if it was Siegfried and Roy or they had different names. But basically during that episode, the magicians are viciously mauled. And one of the trainers, I guess, they're viciously mauled, but no one dies in the episode.
Right.
And so that was 1993. 10 years later, in 2003, in Las Vegas, in one of their show, Roy of the group Siegfried and Roy was attacked during a live performance in the Montecore Hotel by one of their white tigers. And so he sustained severe injuries in the attack. And so the show was no longer after that. So 10 years later, what the show depicted exactly happened in the show. And if you guys look up these, if you're not from the US, if you look up Siegfried and Roy and you go back to this episode, at season 5, episode 10, you're going to see that you can tell they're definitely based on them.
Right.
So everybody had that what the fuck moment, like, oh shit, they've done it again. They've done it again. And I remember I was young when that happened and thinking like, damn, that sucks. Like, because I don't know about you, but I remember seeing them on TV sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so terrible.
Yeah.
But please look it up if you guys aren't familiar with them. Do you have another one, or do you want me to go? Or
I am trying to think. There's one. There was a crazy one. I think where they mentioned something about Disney buying Fox.
Yes.
And it's like,
yes.
Back then, it's so crazy. I don't know what year that was. Episode. Do you have that listed?
I do. So that was episode 10. Season 10, episode 5. Disney buys 20th Century Fox. And so in that episode, they have a picture of the studio and it says 20th Century Fox. And on the bottom, it says a division of Walt Disney Company. That was in 1998. And in 2017, Disney went ahead and bought Fox.
See, what's crazy about 1998, two of the stocks that were not doing well back then were Apple, were not doing well at all, and Disney. Like, this is before the whole Disney reform. Like, Disney that you see today is so awesome, but Disney back then was not that great. So
Really?
it's at a time when the stock was not doing well. So that's why to make that prediction is pretty crazy, because it's like there's no way they would have bought Fox or anybody, And the fact that they just bought them a couple years ago for $70 billion, which
Yeah,
I
it's
think
crazy.
it was a mistake, because I mean they bought Pixar for, I think it was $4 billion, and they bought Lucasfilm for $4 billion, and they bought Marvel for $5 billion, and it's like they bought Fox for $70 billion. I'm like, I'm not exactly sure what they bought, but not a bargain,
Yeah, I mean, I think with Fox, it's basically, Fox is a web of TV channels, production of TV shows. Like, I can see why it's 70 billion. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I still have a hard time with that one because it did not include the sports channels. That's still not owned by Disney.
ESPN?
Or
what sport channels?
The Fox.
Fox?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was not part of the deal.
That.
Yeah. That was not part of the deal. I mean, I get it. They have a roster of franchises in the movie business. Like, for example, the whole Alien. I'm trying to think. What else is Fox?
Doesn't Fox have some of those Marvel? Hold on. I have it here. Let me scroll down. So
if they have anything Marvel, it would probably be Fantastic Four.
It has X-Men, Fantastic Four,
Yes.
Avatar, and The Simpsons.
Yeah.
So it does have big movie. Is Deadpool with Fox?
I believe it was.
Was, but isn't anymore?
Well, now it's all Disney.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can see the 70 billion.
Yeah, the problem
with the movies and all that.
The weird thing about that, not to go off on a tangent too much, the weird thing about that is X-Men and Fantastic Four. If you go back in the Marvel history, right, in terms of the comic books and people who read the comic books, I did not, but I found this out from research, is that X-Men and Fantastic Four were like the superheroes for Marvel. Like they're game A players, you know? And the
Mm-hmm.
weird thing is, Marvel does not even use them because they don't have the rights to them. They sold the rights off to Fox, right? And other movie companies. So they had a launch with Iron Man and Thor and Hulk, right? And, Black Widow, right? And everybody's like, what the fuck? These are not even the main ones because they didn't have the rights. So the
Yeah.
weird thing is, they end up making so much money with Iron Man and Thor and Hulk and all that, that
Yeah.
now that they actually own their original characters that were the big ones back in the 60s and 70s and all that, now they can actually go back and remake those movies again, which sucks because people will never understand that they've been remade already three, 4 times, and they're just not that great. But when Marvel does it, they do it right. Like they know what needs to get done to make a good superhero movie. So they're gonna be
Yeah.
remade again over the next couple of years, and
You think?
yeah, for sure, it's already contracts and all that. I don't know who the actors are gonna be. Maybe some returning actors. I don't know, and I'm excited about that because I did not like any of the X-Men movies nor Fantastic Four. I thought they were all terrible. But now that they're gonna redo them and redo them right, I'm excited for that.
Yeah. Don't send me any hate mail, guys, if you don't agree with Leone. Just
Send
kidding.
send me all the email. I don't care.
So the next one is the horse meat scandal. So this was season 5, episode 19, and I only found out about this one while doing a little bit of research. So in 1994, the lunch lady Doris, do you remember the lunch lady in the
Yeah.
schools?
Yes.
She was seen, I guess, making lunch for the students, and she was using assorted horse parts. And then
Nice.
9 years later, the FDA of Ireland found that there was horse DNA in 1/3 of beef burger patty samples from supermarkets and meals, and so I think 85% of them were found to have traces. So some people believe that that was her, predicting, or that it was predicted by them that horse parts and meat was being used.
Right.
And then I do remember IKEA was also, I think they had found horse meat in their meatballs
Swedish
in some
meatballs.
places. Yeah,
That's gross.
yeah. I mean, I used to purchase those when I was younger if I was ever there, which wasn't very often, but yeah,
Now you go every week, huh?
yeah. No, I wish.
They're like, ma'am, can we help you with some furniture? No, no, no. I'm here for the meatballs. Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm excited that they're opening stuff because they're my desk area. You helped me with this little bookshelf I have on the left.
Right.
I was trying to get another one on the right, and that's when the quarantine happened and they shut everything. So I'm excited to get the other, kind of finish my project is what I'm getting at.
That's
So
funny. Too funny.
yeah, the next one is autocorrect from season 6, episode 8. Do you remember this?
No.
So they had a device. This was in 1994. They called it the Newton device, and Kearney and Dolph were making a memo on the device, and on the device it had an apple with a worm coming out of it in
Funny.
1994, and he had written that, like, a note, like, to beat up Martin later, and then it auto-corrected to eat up Martha. So people feel that was foreshadowing the autocorrect. You know how we all get frustrated.
Right.
I'm sure you've gotten texts from me. I'm notorious for texting, not reading, and sending, and then having to tell people, "Sorry, I didn't mean that. What I meant was like."
Oh no, trust me. Every text I get from you, I sit back and wait and I laugh because I'm like, what the fuck did she just say? And then I wait because I'm waiting for you to autocorrect, but you don't. And then I have to
Sometimes I
respond to
don't.
you 10 minutes later and be like, hey, what are you trying to say? And you're like, oh, sorry. And I'm like, come on.
Yes, I'm notorious for that. I called my friend a whore last week in a group text. That was not in my intention. My phone auto-corrected it.
That's funny. But you know about that episode right there about it has a double reveal. Do you know what the other reveal is?
The apple on the on the
Yes.
device? Yeah.
Yes. Because before Apple had iPads and iPhones, Apple had a device called a Newton. It
Yes.
was an actual like
Yes.
old school, like a Palm Pilot, like handheld like iPad with the stylus and stuff.
It's the iPhone's ancient ancestor.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, it was called a Newton, and then that was not that. I don't know. That goes back. I think it was the late '80s or mid '80s. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
a long time ago. They discontinued it because nobody bought one, and then the technology that went into that evolved, and it became iPhone.
Being that I'm really young,
You
Leonie,
keep saying that. You're like
I'm super
bragging.
young.
Being that I'm so young and beautiful. I don't remember the
Uh,
'90s.
no, but as far as the Newton was that it didn't sell, was Steve Jobs, was that the time frame where Steve Jobs was not, has had nothing to do with Apple?
Pretty much, yeah. He had already been
Okay.
fired from Apple, and Apple was trying to keep alive with whatever technologies they had out. And one of them they made was a Newton, and it was just bad. I mean, it's a cool idea, but just bad. And
Yeah.
and that's why when he came back, like he completely washed. Like he's like, we're not making printers, we're not making Newtons, we're not making anything. We're gonna start with one product, and it was the iMac, the original iMac with the that looked like an egg with the blue translucent see through and all that. And
Yeah.
and so yeah,
Oh.
it's pretty crazy that like he actually had a vision and said we got to get rid of everything that's stupid and not selling and not working, and redesign it so that it looks cool and it's all easy to plug in and use. And so, I mean, yeah, that guy was a visionary. We could do a whole show about that guy easily because he revolutionized I think uh three huge things in our lives. Not just people think, oh, it was the iPhone. I go, no, computers, iPhones, and I guess tablets and other technologies involved. But
Yeah.
yeah, pretty amazing though.
It's crazy because I actually have an iPhone, have a MacBook Air, and I also have a Mac tablet,
Nice,
iPad,
nice.
which is for work, but I have never used it. I still use their laptop.
That's funny.
Um, but yeah, sticking with technology, the next one was smartwatches. Season 6, episode 19, The Simpsons introduced the idea of a watch that you could use as a phone. And this episode aired in 1995, nearly 20 years before the Apple Watch was released.
Wow.
And I found this on the Business Insider. Um, so there's an episode, in that episode, Lisa is older and she has a British boyfriend who I believe is Jude Law's voice.
That's funny.
And so he's talking into the phone. And so in 1995, I don't think we have Nokia phones in 1995 or not yet?
You know what? That's a really good question. If we didn't, they were very close because I know by '97 they were around.
Mm,
So probably, possibly yes. I'm not sure about that one, but pretty close though.
yeah. So that I thought that was interesting. Another one that the Business Insider also mentions is the invention of the shard. In season 6, episode 19, Lisa, again, this goes to the episode where I was telling you that she was dating the British guy. So she's going to marry him. And this episode was in 1995. And so Lisa goes to London. And when you see the Tower Bridge, they're on the side, the background of the Tower Bridge.
Yes.
There is a building, a skyscraper that you see that is very similar. It looks exactly like the building called the Shard. It's exactly in this right position where the building is now, but that building did not start being built until 2009.
Oh wow.
14 years later after this was on. So you see it in the episode, you see the structure, and it wasn't even there. And so it's crazy too because Lisa is an adult at this point. So it's almost like it's in the future.
Right.
And so 1995, and they started construction on this building in 2009, 14 years later, but somehow they got it right.
Damn.
That one's the creepiest to me.
Yeah. That is crazy, huh?
Mm-hmm. Um, Also, a lot of people think about in the same season 6, episode 19, when Lisa's, with her British guy, they talk about librarians, like librarians being. Am I saying that right? Librarians?
Librarians.
I was like, why does it sound not right? Librarians?
No, it's okay. It's sometimes we get stuck on those words.
Say it again for me.
Librarians.
Librarian.
Use it in a sentence. Mary can be a sexy librarian.
I don't know why I can't say that word. Librarians. Like, am I saying?
Yeah, that's right.
Anyways, they were replaced with robots. And so now, and a lot of people think is because there are certain universities that have built a prototype for walking library robots. And I think it's in Singapore. So people feel that that was predicted 20 years ago by The Simpsons. Because in that episode, they don't have like staff. They're just like robots that are librarians. I keep saying librarians. They're not Liberia. Librarians.
Liberia is a country for sure.
After this, I'm going to try to practice saying that.
You're still going to get her wrong. It's okay.
Librarians.
You're old, Mary. You're stuck in your ways.
I'm stuck in my ways. Do you have another one you might want to mention, or should I go on?
Tom Hanks.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of the Tom Hanks quarantine?
I have recently, yes.
In 2007, they had Tom Hanks on the show claiming that this is Tom Hanks saying that if you see me, leave me be. In the Simpsons movie. Now, he was really in quarantine for COVID-19 in real life. He was one of the first celebrities to come down with it, him and his wife.
Yeah. But in the episode, so you guys, or the movie, I guess, is he was kind of secluded from everyone. Wasn't there like a dome over him?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so that's where I think the quarantine idea comes from. So I feel like that one's kind of like, eh. What do you think?
I mean, it's fun because what I saw in the news is that I'm not sure if it was Disney or Fox or somebody when he was in quarantine with his wife, they send him the volleyball. Did you ever see the movie Castaway?
No.
Okay, there's a movie Castaway where I believe he plays a FedEx delivery guy on a plane, and the plane crashes and everybody dies, his crew dies and everything, but he's left alone on an island to survive. And he's trying to learn survival skills, and he's trying to pick up FedEx packages to get whatever he can survive with. But throughout the movie, he finds a volleyball, and he takes his bloody handprint and he puts it on the volleyball to create the face of a character, and he calls him Wilson. It's his friend Wilson. So his only friend, because he's alone on the island by himself, his only friend throughout the whole movie is Wilson, and he feels Wilson's with him the whole time until there's a boating accident where he's trying to build a raft and like row away, and it falls apart because of the storm and all that, and he loses Wilson, so he becomes so sad because Wilson was his only friend. So when he was in quarantine for COVID just a couple months ago, they sent him a Wilson volleyball with the handprint with the face of the character.
Oh, that's cute. Yeah, well, I'm glad he's okay. So he had a mild case, so that's good.
Yeah.
Going to the next one, some people believe the Ebola outbreak was predicted by The Simpsons in season 9, episode 3. People believe that they predicted that there would be a outbreak.
Right.
17 years before it happened, because Marge suggests that Bart, who is sick, should read a book titled Curious George and the Ebola Virus. The virus was discovered in 76, so I think it could be, coincidence, but people swear that it was a prediction because you hear more of it now. I think it's one of the deadlier viruses for sure. But definitely people, I don't think it's necessarily a prediction, but some people think it is. But it had been discovered in 1976, so
Yeah,
prior to this episode.
I'm not sure about the prediction. Like it definitely is a prediction, but there were Ebola outbreaks before, like in the mid '90s. I want to say '94, '95
Yeah.
in the
Mm-hmm.
Congo, in the People's Democratic Republic of the Congo in Africa, where people were catching this and dying, and it's such an infectious pathogen that it's hemorrhagic fever. So you're basically bleeding from the inside out, like all your organs just shut down. You're pretty much dead in 3 or 4 days. But
Yeah.
there was outbreaks out there in the mid '90s. So I wonder if that episode was because of that. Because
Probably.
at the time that movie Outbreak came out, it was also in the mid '90s.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I wonder if it
Yeah.
was that, and or was there possibly a prediction for something to come next? Who knows, right?
Yeah, I think with you too, because a lot of the movies on outbreaks were in that same time frame as
That's
well.
right. That's right.
So that was probably what was in. After that came the Alien movies.
Right.
The other one that people, this is a more recent one in 2008, the faulty voting machines, which was season 20, episode 4, where Homer was trying to vote for Barack Obama, but the faulty machine kept changing it to John McCain. Remember him?
Right.
Yeah, so 4 years later, they had a big debacle in Pennsylvania where they had that same situation between Barack Obama and Mitt Romney. So a lot of people feel that that was a prediction by The Simpsons. So that was interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. I know you're
So
you're a big soccer fan. You know about the soccer conspiracy one?
yeah, the FIFA one.
Yes.
Yeah. So go ahead,
No,
tell everyone.
I want you to. That's your thing.
Well, I wasn't ready for that yet. So now I gotta look for it. Sorry. You got ahead of the game there. So sorry, I had a list here. Now I have to scroll and look for it.
I guess in 2014 there was an episode. I don't know what episode that was or what season that is, but in 2014, so that's what 6 years ago. The show predicted a corruption in the FIFA industry, and I guess a year later it really happened. Like they brought it to
Yeah.
life. So 1 year before, it's pretty funny they're making fun of that, and the next thing you know, it really happens.
Yeah. It could have been too that, the writers have so much money. They probably knew someone in there that knew it was about to happen.
Right.
Maybe.
It's possible. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So that's one of the other predictions that people have that people swear the Simpsons got right. Another one, which was the U.S. beating Sweden in the Olympic Games at curling in season 21, episode 12, which I don't know if you guys remember the U.S. one as well. But the episode was predicted in 2010, and then in 2018 is when the U.S. won gold over Sweden. So people swear that was a prediction 8 years later.
That's crazy.
Do you remember that? People were watching it.
Yes.
I was watching it, and I
was
had
too.
never watched that sport either.
Yeah, I've never watched it until just a couple Olympics ago. So I don't know, that would have been 12 years ago, where I'm like, what is this? And then I realized how silly it was, because they usually don't televise the silly events, And I don't mean to offend anybody, but they
I'm just
televise,
kidding.
they televise figure skating, right? Or what are the big ones? Or snowboarding, right? All the big ones they televise, but they don't televise the smaller ones. Like you got to really look for them, And I remember it was on, and I'm thinking, this is a really crazy sport. Like you got to use brooms, and you're trying to move, this floating object that's gliding across ice. This is insane. But the fact that the U.S. would never have a team to win against any European country because they're excellent at that stuff, the fact that they won, that was pretty crazy.
Yeah. And I only watched it because they were, it was on TV and the media was hyping it. So I was like, all right. And it was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Have I watched it since? No. But
Right.
Another one was the Nobel Prize winner. This was season 22, episode 1. So, MIT professor Bengt Holmstrom won the Nobel Prize in Economics in 2016, 6 years after he was bet to win the Nobel Prize by The Simpsons, which was Martin, I think, who bet on him. Or
Interesting.
was it Millhouse? When Martin, Lisa, Database, and Millhouse bet on him to
Wow.
be. So he won 6 years later. But when I was looking into this, apparently this guy had been nominated a lot of years. So it could have been eventually he was going to win. Maybe they put him in there because he would never win.
Right.
So someone on the writers team must be a huge science nerd, techie nerd.
Oh, for
That's what I'm
sure.
gathering
Yeah.
from all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
But yeah, so readings up on that, they did say that he had been nominated many, many years and never won.
That's funny.
One that was recent was Lady Gaga's Super Bowl halftime show. This was on season 23, episode 22, where in 2012 she performed in the town of Springfield hanging from midair, with like acrobatic like stuff in the air. And then 5 years later, she did that in Houston for the Super Bowl halftime show. And so
Right.
everyone, I guess, noticed it and was like, holy shit, where have I seen this before? Oh my
Right.
God.
Right.
So I don't know. What do you think? Coincidence? They predicted it? Or do you think Lady Gaga was like, let's reenact the Simpsons
I know, right?
halftime Super Bowl show?
I know. But then again, like, isn't the Super Bowl on Fox too?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like
But
almost.
do you think they went to her and were like, we're just gonna throw it out there?
Yeah, like
We did an
Simpsons had a
episode
good
on you.
idea, right?
Yeah, we had an episode on you 5 years ago. Like, why
Yeah.
don't we? You never know.
Yeah, but I mean that's I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised, you know. And speaking of Super Bowls, you know what the Super Bowl predictions?
Yeah, there was quite a few.
There's I don't know how many total, but there's at least 3 notable ones, which are Super Bowl. Let me see, that would be 26, 27, and 28 from 1992 to 1994. The Simpsons accurately predicted the winner of the Super Bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's crazy because it's like you can't predict who's going to go to the Super Bowl.
Right.
I mean, you could say, okay, Tom Brady's team's going to go to Super Bowl. That's fine. But, you're not going to predict who the winner's going to be. Like, I mean, come on, So
Yeah.
that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that was. And that's, I think, one of their famous ones with the 49ers playing against Kansas City this year. Both the teams wore red. So people were trying to figure out, well, on this episode of The Simpsons, the red team, because it was in the same state. I think it was Florida.
Right.
So they were trying to see who was going to wear what uniform since they both wore red and white.
Yeah. That's funny.
So, yeah. So then there's the Game of Thrones one. Have you seen that one? Season 29, episode 1.
I heard of it. I have not seen it, though.
Yeah, I have not seen it either, but apparently in 2017, The Simpsons, spoofed various aspects of Game of Thrones, but then, they had basically a scene where they were burning the town. The dragon was burning the town, just like the last episode or the last season.
Oh, right,
So
right.
this was a few years before the last season. So people swear that they predicted that. I think writers were probably talking to each other.
Right.
So another one is Guitar Hero. I guess what was it in 2000? It was released in 2005. Guitar Hero, which is a game that pretty much everyone played. But in 2002, The Simpsons had Mick Jagger, Keith Richards give Homer a jacket that said Guitar Hero on the back because he was like a air guitar guy.
Right.
And so that could have been a prediction. So maybe the person saw it and was like, oh, I can totally make a video game out of this.
Right. I would not be surprised if a lot of like innovations came from that. some geeky kid, works at a startup company up in Silicon Valley and watches The Simpsons, like, oh shit, we should make telephones talk to themselves automatically, order food for us. And the
Mm-hmm.
next thing you know, it's like we have an app that does that, you know?
Yeah. So you never know. So that's another thing that's interesting. And then the game Farmville.
Yes.
So in a 1998 episode, The Simpsons show a scene of kids virtually playing a farming. It was called Yardwork Simulator, and so they have a rake and they're cutting glass, but they're wearing like the eye. What would you call those eye simulators or?
Oh, they're like VR glasses or
Yeah, they have kind of like that in the
right.
episode, but people believe that that was 1998. So in 2009, that's when the craze Farmville came around. So people swear that was Yardwork Simulator in the episode.
Huh. That's funny.
So I hadn't heard of that until I started researching this. The other one is the murder hornets and coronavirus in 1933. No, not 33. They have not been around that long.
I'm like,
In 19
what?
I know. In 1993, there is an episode where there's a Japanese factory worker who, coughs into this package, right? Which is it's not the coronavirus, it's Osaku flu, which was a Japanese flu. So it's
Yeah.
not the same as coronavirus. Somehow they've edited it to say coronavirus to scare people, but it was called the Osaka flu. And so this box, after you see him coughing into the box, and you see these red particles going into the box, right? And then that box goes to Springfield, and then that's where they open it, and then everybody's spreading it. And then this is one that I think a lot of people have seen as well. So people are saying that was the coronavirus because they had to stay in, stay away. Then there was mad panic from the Springfield people, right?
Right.
They all run in panic to the doctor's house. And I think this is what you've seen as well, because I think it made all the runs in media,
Yeah.
social media,
Yeah.
where they're asking for like a vaccine or treatment. They're freaking out. And the doctor's like, I can't really give you anything. I can give you a placebo. And people are like, oh, we need the placebo. They freak out. There's like a delivery truck behind them. And someone says, maybe it's in this truck. And the crowd like knocks the truck over. And so these killer bees are released. And that was basically what happened with us here, right? In the world where they were like, or in the US, we're dealing with coronavirus. And then all of a sudden they're like, murder hornets have been found in the US. And so
Right.
if you guys have not seen murder hornets or look them up, they're so big, you can hold one in your palm. Like that's how big they are. They're not like your typical tiny ass. I mean, they're bigger than wasps. That like they're huge, and people do die from their bites.
Yeah, they have a big stinger, and I guess they have some kind of venom that, maybe one sting is not too terrible, but if a few get to you, like it's enough to kill you for sure.
Yeah, so a lot of people were freaked out by that because they were like, "Oh, great!" In the same episode, it's like they're dealing with the virus, and they release these murderous bees. And
That's
so
funny.
it coincided perfectly with we're dealing with coronavirus, and now you're telling us there's murder hornets in the U.S. That so the reason why it was such a big deal is because the bees here. So the bees in Asia have I guess know how to defend themselves because they've been dealing with these huge bees.
Right.
They know how to attack them and protect themselves. Bees in America don't. And so that's why it was such a big deal, because they've never dealt with a predator of that size. And so it made the news rounds, and so everyone was freaking out.
That's funny.
Yes. And then the last one I want to touch in, and I know there's probably more, is Donald Trump.
Right.
So I wanted to end with that in the sense that, Trump became president of the United States. He, there's, I guess, Lisa then comes and wins after him to mess up the economy that he broke, basically. But one of the creepiest things, well, it's not so much that he won the election, because he had tried to run prior to 2016. He tried to run twice. If you guys want to see a documentary on Trump, Netflix has a really good one where he was working with the Russians to try to get in. I think it was it 2001 or 1990 something. Long story short, it's all in there. But the creepiest one was the escalator scene that I think everyone out has seen, and it's almost like too creepy in the sense that it's so accurate.
Yeah, because wasn't he wearing the same exact red tie and waving
He always
exactly?
wears a red tie. I was actually thinking yesterday, why does he always wear a red tie? Like, it's not related to this, but it's still, yes,
Right.
he was wearing a red tie, and he always wears a red tie. But I can't remember if he was wearing a red tie even when he was just a famous celebrity. I'll have to look back at that. But as a president, he's always wearing a red tie. But that was interesting. So I was trying to look for where some people have that casket picture that he died, but apparently that it sounds like it may be fake. I don't watch The Simpsons, so if someone out there knows if it's really, I couldn't find anything of whether it was real. So I did read some people say that someone faked that. But I don't know. So if anyone knows, direct me if that's true or not, because I see tweets all the time like, is this true? Is this on the show? Like him being in a casket that circulates a lot,
Right.
but I couldn't find anything. So I don't know if people are, because people are good at drawing now. That we're starting to get more. People are jumping on the Simpsons prediction stuff, that people are starting to fake stuff like the coronavirus.
Right.
It was not the coronavirus in the episode, but they edited it to show that's what the newsman was talking about, and so people now just believe everything they read. So
Right. That's funny.
yeah, so those are some of the Simpsons predictions that people believe that they have predicted. The other thing too is that I'm sure they have so many seasons that I'm sure there's going to be more connections as things progress. I do also want to give my friend Amy a shout out because she loves The Simpsons and she's looking forward to this episode. So I hope
Nice, Amy.
yeah, I hope she made it this far. Anything else you want to add?
No, but The Simpsons. I mean, we're going on what 31 seasons? Is it 31 seasons and 639 episodes? I believe.
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe.
it first aired December 17th of '89, so it's a crazy fun show. I mean, who has not heard of them? But if you've never watched them, and or maybe you did back in the day but don't anymore, it's a fun show to just turn your mind off and just laugh because the jokes are still fresh. What you see is still funny, and it's still going strong, and it's going to keep going strong, which is crazy because it's one of the longest running shows ever.
Yeah.
So who knows what else they're going to predict, right?
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. They have so many years or seasons that I'm sure there's a lot of things that are going to come up in the future. Like, because a lot of times things were, predicted 20 years before or 10 years before. So I'm sure there's a lot of things that we can link to them.
And
But yeah.
And if you want to watch any of the episodes, any of 639 episodes at time of release, you can if you subscribe to Disney Plus.
Yeah.
They're all on
So
there.
we're not sponsored, by the way, but
I am.
oh, I
Thanks.
hate you. I'm just kidding.
Thanks Disney. Thanks Simpsons. Just kidding.
But yeah, they part of their library of things. Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. And then next week, we're going to have another episode. So I hope you guys can come in. I'll try not to take any more weeks off because it is a good thing for us to distract ourselves from our daily lives. Yeah. And, with 2020 being such a crazy year, if there's anyone out there that actually cares to listen, I hope that it's a positive or, enlightening 1 hour, hour and a half of us talking to have you guys distract from the bad stuff in the world. So Yeah, thank you.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. All right. Bye-bye. That was episode 11 of the Purposely Curious podcast. Make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcast and Spotify, and follow us on social media at Purposely Curious on Instagram and at Purposely C Pod on Twitter. That's Purposely, the letter C, Pod. Until next time, you know what to do.